Hello, this is Travis. So, this drawing was started with Roscoe, Geek Out with Roscoe, on his show Drawn Together. This is a piece that I started and it did not go as expected as I was drawing it. The idea came from my wife. Great idea. We were talking about what ifs, and there was a new what if that just come out with Scott, and what if he had stayed with Madeline rather than going back to Jean Grey, and the fallout and how things happened, and then all these different things that happened with Cable and all that stuff, which was fantastic. I mean, of course, in true what if fashion, it crashed and burned. So this process of restarting it and then redrawing it, I took a different tack that I'd never done before. I actually drew my background in first. You can, as you guys have seen, and then I started editing the characters and modifying them and changing them and moving them to where they were going. When I first started this part of it, I thought I was going to still be doing 3 different Jeans, and by about this point where I'd done the Jean Grey here, and I had a feeling that Madeline would be up front, I decided that Emma Frost should be in this instead of young Jean Grey. It made way more sense to have Emma Frost be a part of the loves of Cyclops rather than young Jean Grey, because old Jean Grey and young Jean Grey can both represent themselves. Madeline Pryor would be represented by the Goblin Queen, and then you have the White Queen, of course, as Emma Frost. So that ended up being the inception of what I was doing here. And right now you see my almost getting pretty close to finishing my pencils up here, and getting it all laid out. And so as I was doing this, I was trying to figure out, how do I want to color this? I mean, if you've watched any of my process videos, I often start with watercolor and work my way into the inks, and sometimes I do it the other way, where I do some inks and then do watercolor or do other coloring or colored ink. So I was really, because this was such a different format for me and such a different way of doing something, I thought maybe it would be better to scan my pencils and then take it from there and move to whatever I was going to do to color the piece. And so as I was doing that, I kind of started thinking through how I wanted to shade and get everything ready, and then I went and scanned it, and then I brought it home, and then I learned something that I always need to bring my own paper when it comes to getting prints done for my print shop for things that I'm going to do work on, because the importance of the paper, the quality of the paper, the Bristol, to be able to handle the watercolor or ink or anything like that is far more important than making sure that I get a good scan, because this paper wanted to just crumple up after it got wet. It just was not quite heavy enough. It was only an 80-pound paper, and I normally work with 100-pound or more paper. So here you can see I'm adding all this is all watercolor based stuff that I'm doing right here, and you can see as I bring in the watercolors, I started adding some of these really strong whites. But I also noticed that as I was inking this in or coloring this in, that I don't think I knew my pencil lines as well as I think I did, because the legs and a couple of the one arm and one leg were off a little bit on Cyclops completely, to the point of this wasn't going to work out the way I was hoping it would. But also, which was really weird, is that as I was doing this, I got sucked back into that idea of my backgrounds were unimportant, focus on the foregrounds, and I kind of started losing some of the pencils that I had in the background. So you could see in the original pencils, but you couldn't really see once I colored it. So I had to go back to my original drawing a couple different times to see where I was going with certain aspects of the drawing itself. And then I also did some additions to the drawing afterwards, things that I did just on this piece as I was coloring it, because it became very evident that that it was not. There was things missing that I didn't draw in that I should have drawn in. You just saw I kind of flipped things over, and I watercolored, did water on the back. That was to try to get it to stretch back out, to become more accepting of the paint, which really did help. And in here now, I'm starting to do some more. I'm still doing white watercolor, but I'm starting to move towards inks and stuff here in a second, and you'll see that here momentarily. I got a couple new pens that I used for this particular thing. I got a gray Kotaki, I think. Yeah, ink pen. Kotaki? Oh, Pilot. Gray ink Pilot pen, which I used. I cleaned up my white ink brush pen so I could use it. And then I also picked up these at a recommendation of a friend, a couple other Pilot pens that were ink for inking, both, and they were fantastic. I did note that they have to dry a good 24 hours before you can use water stuff over the top of them, or they will bleed in. A couple places they actually just bled in. It was pretty crazy. Here you can see this is where I started using the inks. I started adding the inks. The brickwork I did with alcohol marker. I hope you guys find this fascinating. I hope you enjoy this. This is my experiment. This is one video just to do it, just to get it out there as a full length. Hey, this is the connection of 8 hours, 10 hours of work. Let's see. I'm trying to add the time. 80 times 4, 240, 320. So that divided by 6, so just under 6 hours worth of work on this piece. It feels a little less than what it really was, but when you collect it all and you put it all together as one big video, you don't know what it's going to end up looking like. So anyway, you can see as I'm inking in here, I'm getting really close to finishing this up here according to this, and that you can see the gray Pilot pen right there. That's what I'm using right there. And then some more alcohol markers to deepen in the colors. And then I'm going in with some other stuff. Then I went in and I fixed all the lines for pencil lines on the original pencils, because I still have the original pencils uninked and unencumbered, which I kind of like. I kind of like having that ability to go back now, and I have that, and I can redo it anytime I want. Thank you for joining me in this experiment. I look forward to showing you more later.